A millionaire found a girl who lived on the street crying in the rain and took her to his home. The bustling city streets pulsed with the frenetic energy of late afternoon, a sea of hurried faces and purposeful strides. Among the rushed crowd, a small figure stood out, not by haste, but by the stillness of her presence. Lily, a girl of only 8 years old, sat huddled against the cold wall of an imposing building, her large brown eyes framed by a thin, dirty face peering out between the incessant coming and going of passers-by. Lily's clothes, a jumble of faded and patched rags, hung loosely on her body, thinned by hunger. Her tangled, dull black hair fell over bony shoulders covered by a thin, worn jacket. Her bare, grimy and calloused feet silently testified to the harsh miles walked on the city's merciless streets. "Why doesn't anyone see me?" Lily thought, her inner voice laden with a sadness beyond her years. "Why do they all pass by and ignore me here as if I were part of the sidewalk? Can they see me through these rags, or do they only see one more person on the street?" With trembling hands, Lily clutched against her chest a piece of stale bread, her only food for the day, given by a kind lady who had passed by earlier. Her stomach rumbled, begging for food, but something in her heart prevented her from devouring the bread immediately. Her eyes scanned the street, searching for someone who might need it more than she did. It was then that she spotted a young mother, just as dirty and raggedly dressed as herself, holding an incessantly crying baby not far from where Lily was. The woman seemed as lost and desperate as Lily felt. Maybe I can make someone smile today, even if I can't smile for myself," Lily murmured to herself. Gathering courage, she slowly stood up, her thin legs trembling with the effort. Each step was a battle against weakness and hunger. People passed by her without noticing, as if she were just another shadow on the sidewalk. Finally, she reached the young mother, who looked at her with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. Lily held out the piece of bread, offering it without a word. The mother, with tears in her eyes, hesitated for a moment before accepting the act of kindness. "Thank you, little one. You are an angel sent from heaven," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Lily's heart warmed at the words of gratitude, even as her stomach protested even more. She watched the mother break the bread and feed the baby, who stopped crying almost instantly. For a brief moment, Lily forgot her own hunger, lost in the joy of having made a difference, however small, in someone's life. "Even if people act like I'm invisible, I can still help someone," Lily thought, a fragile smile playing on her lips. "I want to be light even while I'm in darkness. Mummy always told me to be a kind girl, no matter the circumstances." As the memory of her mother flashed through her mind, a wave of longing washed over Lily. It had been 3 months since her mother's passing, 3 long months of surviving on the unforgiving streets. Each day was a struggle, a constant battle against hunger, cold, and the crushing loneliness that threatened to engulf her. Suddenly, the sky darkened dramatically, as if responding to Lily's thoughts. Heavy, menacing clouds gathered above, turning day into premature night. A distant rumble of thunder made Lily instinctively flinch. People on the street began to move more quickly, seeking shelter from the impending storm. "Oh no, where will I go? Where can I hide?" Lily murmured, panic rising in her chest. "With this rain it will get very cold, and these are the worst nights." The rain began to fall, first in sparse drops, then in dense curtains of water. Lily ran, her bare feet slipping on the wet pavement. She desperately sought a place to shelter, but every door was closed, every entrance blocked. People around her rushed to taxis, shops, and buildings, leaving her increasingly alone on the rapidly emptying street. "Please, can someone help me?" Lily shouted to no one in particular, her voice almost lost in the sound of the rain. "I don't want to be alone in the storm. Is there anywhere I can stay just until the rain stops?" But her pleas went unheard, drowned out by the thunderous downpour and the indifference of a world too busy to notice a small, frightened girl. The storm lashed the main avenue, turning it into a turbulent river of hurried umbrellas and sliding cars. In the midst of this chaos, Lily began to cry desperately, not knowing where she could take shelter. "Mommy, why did you have to go?" Lily sobbed softly, her tears mingling with the rain on her face. "Why did I have to be alone in this big, scary world?" As the rain continued to pour, Lily huddled in a small alcove, trying to shield herself from the worst of the storm. Her thin clothes were soaked through, offering no protection against the biting cold. She shivered uncontrollably, her teeth chattering as she wrapped her arms around herself in a futile attempt to stay warm. In that moment, as the world around her descended into a watery chaos, Lily felt more alone than ever before. The bustling city that had ignored her in the sunshine now seemed even more hostile and uncaring in the storm. She closed her eyes tightly, trying to remember the warmth of her mother's embrace, the safety of a home that now existed only in her memories. Little did Lily know that this stormy night would be the turning point in her young life, that through the rain and darkness, a light of hope was about to shine. Her story was far from over, in fact. It was about to take an unexpected turn that would change everything. Amidst the confusion of the rain-lashed avenue, a luxurious car advanced slowly, its headlights cutting through the curtain of rain like sharp knives. Behind the wheel was Gabriel, a man with kind features and the intelligent look of someone who dealt with big business. His attentive eyes scanned the street, more out of habit than real interest. Suddenly something caught his attention, a small, staggering figure on the sidewalk, looking more like an injured animal than a child. She was shivering with cold and crying inconsolably. Gabriel frowned, his hand instinctively moving to the steering wheel. "What is a child doing alone in this weather?" he murmured to himself, undecided. "Should I stop, or is this a trap?" Gabriel slowed down even more, his eyes never leaving Lily's figure. The girl was now practically crawling, her strength almost drained. She looked up, her eyes meeting Gabriel's through the windshield. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Gabriel felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in that gaze, something terribly familiar. "Oh my God," Gabriel gasped, his voice trembling. "Those eyes, they remind me of someone. But who? How is that possible?" With his heart racing, Gabriel finally made a decision. He maneuvered the car to the curb, ignoring the irritated protests of the drivers behind him. His hands were shaking as he unbuckled his seatbelt. The rain continued to fall relentlessly, but Gabriel barely noticed, his focus entirely on the child who was now only a few meters away. "Hey, little one," Gabriel called out, his voice almost lost in the roar of the storm. "Are you okay? Do you need help? Why are you alone in the rain? You don't have anywhere to go." Hearing the voice, Lily turned slowly, her eyes large and frightened, fixed on Gabriel. For a moment she seemed to consider fleeing, the fear of strangers deeply ingrained in her, but the cold and exhaustion spoke louder. With faltering steps she approached the car. "No, I don't have a home," Lily whispered, her voice weak and trembling. "Please, sir, I just need a dry place, just until the rain stops. I promise I won't bother you." Gabriel felt his heart tighten. The girl's voice, so young and yet laden with so much suffering, hit him like a punch in the stomach. He opened the car door, hesitating for a moment before making an inviting gesture. "Come on, get in," he said, trying to sound as gentle as possible. "You'll catch pneumonia if you stay out there." Lily hesitated, years of distrust fighting against her desperate need for shelter. She took a step forward, then another, until she was finally beside the car. Gabriel could see now how much she was shivering, her lips almost blue with cold. "I'm not going to hurt you, I promise," Gabriel said softly. "I just want to help. What's your name, little one?" Lily swallowed hard, gathering courage to answer. "Lily," she whispered. "My name is Lily." With those words, she finally got into the car, leaving a puddle of water on the leather seat. Gabriel quickly turned on the heater, watching the girl out of the corner of his eye. Now that she was closer, the resemblance to someone he was trying to recall was even more pronounced. He felt his heart beating hard in his chest, a mixture of fear and hope growing within him. Lily. Gabriel repeated the name softly, as if testing its sound. "It's a beautiful name." "My name is Gabriel. Do you have family around here, Lily?" The girl lowered her eyes, her hands nervously clutching the hem of her soaked t-shirt. "No, sir, I don't have anyone. I'm alone now," she answered in a low voice, biting her lip to keep from crying. Gabriel felt a wave of emotions hit him, compassion, concern, and something more, something he couldn't name. He looked at Lily, studying every detail of her face, the shape of her eyes, the outline of her chin. Everything seemed a perfect replica of someone he was trying so hard to remember. "Who does this girl remind me of?" Gabriel thought, his heart racing. "Why does she seem so familiar to me? Could this be a sign that I should take care of her? Why do I feel an urge screaming for me to protect her?" But even as these thoughts raced through his mind, a small voice of caution whispered, "What if I'm seeing things that aren't there?" Gabriel shook his head, trying to clear his confused thoughts. He turned to Lily, who was still shivering despite the heater being on full blast. His eyes roamed over the girl's soaked clothes, her dripping hair, and her lips still slightly blue with cold. With a quick movement, he grabbed a soft blanket from the back seat and delivered it to Lily. "Here, little one, wrap yourself in this," Gabriel said, his voice gentle. "It'll help you warm up faster." Lily hesitated for a moment before accepting the blanket, wrapping herself in it like a protective cocoon. "Thank you, sir." "You're very kind," she mumbled, her voice still trembling. "You're someone special. Most people wouldn't care about me." Gabriel smiled softly, feeling a wave of protectiveness wash over him. He started the car, the windshield wipers working furiously against the relentless rain. "Well, Lily, you don't need to thank me. I think we should get out of here. You must be hungry. How about getting something to eat? Are you hungry?" Lily's eyes widened, a mixture of hope and distrust shining in them. I don't want to bother you, sir. You've already done so much by getting me out of the rain," she replied nervously, biting her lip. Gabriel shook his head, determined. "It's no bother at all. You need to eat. Well, living on the streets can't be easy." As he drove through the wet streets, Gabriel kept sneaking glances at Lily. The girl seemed to relax a bit, the warmth of the car and the security of the blanket taking effect. He cleared his throat, trying to start a conversation. "So Lily, you said you're alone. How long have you been, well, on the streets?" Lily shrank a little in the seat, her fingers clutching the edge of the blanket. It's been 3 months, I think," she answered in a low voice. "Since my mom," her voice faltered, and she swallowed hard before continuing, "since my mom was gone." Gabriel's heart tightened at those words. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, fighting the urge to stop the car and hug the girl. "I'm so sorry, Lily. It must have been very hard for you," he said softly. Lily just nodded, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. "My mom was all I had. She always said that one day she would finally tell me who my father was," but Lily stopped talking, her voice choked with emotion. Gabriel felt his heart skip a beat. "Your father? You don't know him?" Lily shook her head. "Mum said he didn't know about me, that he left the country before he knew she was pregnant." Gabriel felt his heart sink as he heard the sad story from the girl. He was about to ask more questions when his cell phone rang, cutting through the tense air of the car. He glanced at the caller ID and saw his sister Vivian's name blinking on the screen. "It's my sister. I need to take this, okay?" he explained to Lily, who looked at him curiously before nodding, shrinking further into the seat. Gabriel took a deep breath before pressing the button to answer the call on speakerphone. "Gabriel, where the hell are you?" Vivian's shrill voice filled the car. "I've been waiting for you for an hour for dinner." Gabriel frowned, suddenly remembering the commitment. "Sorry, Vivian. I had an unexpected situation," he responded, shooting a glance at Lily. "Unexpected situation? What kind of unexpected situation is more important than having dinner with your only sister?" Vivian asked, her voice dripping with irritation. Gabriel hesitated, uncertain of how to explain the situation. "It's complicated, Vivian. I found someone who needs help." There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Vivian spoke again, her voice was laced with suspicion. "Someone who needs help? Gabriel, what have you gotten yourself into now?" "Look, I'll explain everything when I get home. I'm bringing her with me. We'll be there in about 15 minutes, Gabriel said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Her, Gabriel, you better have a good explanation for this," Vivian warned before hanging up. Gabriel sighed, turning to Lily with an apologetic smile. "That was my sister, Vivian. She can be a bit intense sometimes, but don't worry, everything will be fine." Lily nodded, but Gabriel could see the fear creeping back into her eyes. He reached out and gently patted her hand. "Hey, it's okay. I promise I won't let anything bad happen to you." As they pulled up to the imposing mansion, Lily's eyes widened in awe. "Is this where you live?" she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. Gabriel nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Yes, this is home. Come on, let's get you inside and into some dry clothes." As they approached the front door, it swung open abruptly, revealing Vivian. She was elegantly dressed for dinner, her face a mask of irritation that quickly turned to shock upon seeing Lily. "Gabriel, what is the meaning of this?" Vivian hissed, her eyes sparking with anger. "Who is this child?" Her voice dripped with disdain as she looked Lily up and down. Gabriel instinctively placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "Vivian, this is Lily. I found her on the street, alone in the rain. She needs our help." Vivian crossed her arms, blocking the entrance. "Have you lost your mind? You can't just bring a beggar into the house. What if she steals something? What if it's part of some scheme?" Lily shrank even further, tears starting to form in her eyes. Gabriel felt a surge of anger rise in his chest. "Enough, Vivian. Lily is a frightened, alone child. She's staying, even if just for tonight. Now please let us in." Reluctantly, Vivian stepped aside, allowing Gabriel and Lily to enter. As they stepped into the warmth of the house, Gabriel couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change dramatically. Little did he know just how right he was. The interior of the mansion was even more impressive than the outside, with its grand entrance hall and marble staircase. Lily looked around in awe as Gabriel gently guided her inside. Vivian followed closely behind, a disapproving gaze never wavering. Lily's eyes wandered the walls adorned with paintings and photographs until something caught her attention. It was a large framed photograph of a graduating class, Dozens of smiling faces looked at the camera, all dressed in caps and gowns. But one face in particular made Lily's heart skip a beat. In the middle of the photograph, beaming radiantly, was a young woman who looked incredibly familiar. Lily felt her breath quicken. She looked so much like Mom, she thought, just a younger version than the one I knew. Maybe a teenager. It must just be a coincidence. But as Lily studied the image more closely, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. There, pinned to the woman's gown, was a brooch identical to the one Lily carried in her pocket. Lily unconsciously reached into her pocket, feeling the familiar shape of the brooch her mother had given her. Her mind swirled with questions. How is this possible? Who is this woman? Why does she have a brooch just like Mom's? Gabriel noticed Lily's attention on the photograph. "Ah, that's my college graduation class. Good times back then," he commented casually, oblivious to the emotional turmoil within the girl. Lily just nodded, unable to find words. She wanted to ask about the woman in the photo, but something held her back. A deep instinct told her to keep the questions to herself, to not reveal too much too soon. "Come on, Lily. Let's find you some dry clothes." Gabriel's voice brought her back to reality. He gently guided her away from the photograph toward the stairs. As they climbed, Lily cast one last glance at the graduation photo. Her heart was heavy with unspoken secrets and unanswered questions. "Mom," she thought, "I miss you so much. Maybe I'm seeing things I want to see because I wish you were here with me." With each step she took, Lily touched the only memento she had of her mother, the brooch in her pocket, a tangible link to a past she was barely beginning to understand. Once upstairs, Gabriel led Lily to a guest room. "You can stay here for now," he said kindly. "There are some clothes in the wardrobe that might fit you. They belonged to my niece, but she outgrew them. Why don't you get changed while I talk to my sister?" Lily nodded gratefully, still too overwhelmed to speak. As Gabriel left the room, she began to explore. The room was larger than any she had ever seen, with plush carpets and ornate furniture. She opened the wardrobe and found an array of beautiful clothes, all seemingly brand new. As she changed into dry clothes, Lily's mind kept wandering back to the photograph and the brooch. She took out her own brooch from her wet clothes and examined it closely. It was indeed identical to the one in the photo, a delicate silver flower with a small diamond at its center. Meanwhile, downstairs, Gabriel was facing an irate Vivian. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Vivian hissed. "You can't just bring a street urchin into our home." Gabriel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Vivian, she's just a child who has lost everything. We can't turn our backs on her." "And what do you plan to do?" "Adopt her." Vivian's voice dripped with sarcasm. Gabriel paused, the thought striking him for the first time. I don't know. But there's something about her, Vivian. Something familiar." Vivian's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, familiar?" Gabriel shook his head, struggling to articulate his feelings. "I can't explain it. But when I look at her, I feel like I've known her all my life. And her eyes, they remind me so much of." "Of who?" Vivian pressed. "Of Olivia," Gabriel whispered, the name feeling strange on his tongue after so many years. Vivian's face paled. "Olivia? Your ex-girlfriend from college? The one who disappeared without a trace. Gabriel, you can't be serious." "I know it sounds crazy," Gabriel admitted, "but there's a resemblance. And the timing," Lily said her mother died 3 months ago, but she never knew her father. Vivian shook her head in disbelief. "Gabriel, listen to yourself. You're constructing a fantasy based on a desperate child's story. This is madness." Before Gabriel could respond, they heard a small gasp from the stairs. Lily stood there, now dressed in clean clothes, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. In her hand, she clutched the brooch. You knew my mom?" Lily's voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes fixed on Gabriel. Gabriel and Vivian exchanged shocked glances. The air in the room seemed to thicken with tension as the implications of Lily's words sank in. In that moment, Gabriel realized that the mystery surrounding this little girl was far deeper than he had initially thought, and as he looked into Lily's eyes so hauntingly familiar, he knew that uncovering the truth would change all their lives forever. The room fell into a tense silence as Gabriel, Vivian, and Lily stared at each other. Gabriel's mind raced, trying to process Lily's words. Could it be possible? Could this child really be connected to Olivia, the woman he had loved and lost so many years ago? Vivian was the first to break the silence, her voice sharp with disbelief. "This is ridiculous. Gabriel, you can't possibly believe this child's story. It's obviously a ploy to manipulate you." Lily flinched at Vivian's harsh words. clutching the brooch tighter in her small hand. Gabriel noticed her distress and moved to stand protectively beside her. "Vivian, please," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "Let's not jump to conclusions. Lily, can you tell us more about your mother? What was her name?" Lily hesitated, her eyes darting between Gabriel and Vivian. "Her name was Olivia," she said softly. "Olivia Parker. She never told me much about her past, but she always said that one day she'd tell me about my father." Gabriel felt as if the wind had been knocked out of him. Olivia Parker, it was a name he hadn't heard in years, a name that still held so much meaning for him. He looked at Lily, really looked at her, and suddenly the resemblance was undeniable. Those eyes, that determined set of the jaw, it was all Olivia. Vivian, however, remained unconvinced. "This is preposterous," she scoffed. "Gabriel, you're being taken in by a clever street kid's act. How do we know she didn't just overhear us talking about Olivia, or see her name in the house somewhere?" "Vivian, enough," Gabriel said, his voice taking on a steely edge. "Lily is staying here, at least for now. We need to figure this out, and we can't do that by throwing accusations around." Vivian's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Fine," she said, her voice cold. "But don't say I didn't warn you when this all blows up in your face." With that, she stormed out of the room, leaving Gabriel and Lily alone. Gabriel knelt down to Lily's level, his heart aching at the fear and uncertainty in her eyes. "Lily, I'm so sorry about that. My sister, she can be difficult sometimes, but I promise you you're safe here. We'll figure this out together, okay?" Lily nodded, a small smile breaking through her worry. "Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. You're very kind." As the days passed, Gabriel found himself growing increasingly attached to Lily. He marveled at her resilience, her kindness, and the flashes of humor that would occasionally break through her reserved exterior. But as his bond with Lily grew stronger, so did Vivian's resentment. Vivian watched from the sidelines as Gabriel doted on Lily, taking her shopping for new clothes, helping her with schoolwork, and even discussing the possibility of enrolling her in a local private school. With each passing day, her anger and jealousy festered. One evening, while Lily was asleep, Vivian confronted Gabriel in his study. "This has gone on long enough, Gabriel," she hissed. "You're being played for a fool. That girl is not Olivia's daughter, and she's certainly not your child. She's a con artist, plain and simple." Gabriel sighed, rubbing his temples. "Vivian, we've been over this. The resemblance is undeniable, and the brooch." "The brooch proves nothing," Vivian interrupted. "For all we know, she could have stolen it. Have you even considered having a DNA test done?" Gabriel hesitated. The thought had crossed his mind, but part of him was afraid of the results. What if Lily wasn't his daughter? What if this connection he felt was all in his imagination? Seeing his hesitation, Vivian pressed on. "If you won't do it, then I will. I'm not going to stand by and watch you throw away everything for some street urchin's lies." With that, Vivian stormed out of the study, leaving Gabriel alone with his thoughts. Little did he know, Vivian's plans went far beyond a simple DNA test. The next morning, while Gabriel was at work and Lily was engrossed in a book in the library, Vivian made a phone call. "Hello, is this Child Protective Services? I'd like to report a case of potential child exploitation." Vivian's plan was simple but potentially devastating. She would paint Gabriel as an unstable man who had taken in a child off the streets without proper vetting or legal procedures. She would suggest that he might be grooming Lily for nefarious purposes. It was a cruel lie, but Vivian was convinced she was doing what was necessary to protect her brother and their family's reputation. And as she hung up the phone, a pang of guilt shot through her. Was she really doing the right thing? But then she thought of the family fortune, of the scandal that could erupt if word got out about Gabriel's actions, and her resolve hardened. This was for the best, she told herself. Lily would be better off in the system, and Gabriel would thank her once he came to his senses. What Vivian didn't realize was that Lily, curious about the hushed phone conversation, had crept to the door of Vivian's room and overheard everything. Panic gripped the young girl's heart. After finally finding a place where she felt safe, after daring to hope that she might have found a family, it was all about to be ripped away from her. Lily's mind raced. She couldn't go back to the streets, couldn't bear the thought of being thrown into the cold, uncaring system that Vivian had mentioned. And more than that, she couldn't stand the idea of leaving Gabriel, who had shown her more kindness in a few days than she had experienced in months on the streets. With tears in her eyes, Lily made a decision. She had to run away. It was the only way to protect Gabriel from the trouble Vivian was stirring up, the only way to ensure she wouldn't be taken away. Quickly and quietly, she gathered what few possessions she had, including the precious brooch, and slipped out of the mansion. As she stood at the gate, looking back at the place that had briefly felt like home, Lily felt her heart breaking. But she squared her shoulders and turned away, disappearing into the bustling city streets. She was alone again, but this time she carried with her the memory of kindness and the hope that somewhere out there she had a father who might love her. Little did Lily know that her disappearance would set in motion a chain of events that would change everything, bringing long-buried secrets to light and testing the bonds of family in ways none of them could have imagined. As night fell, the mansion was in turmoil. Gabriel had returned home to find Lily missing, and the house was in an uproar. Servants were searching every room, while Gabriel frantically called the police, his voice trembling with fear and worry. Vivian watched the chaos unfold, a mixture of guilt and justification warring within her. She hadn't meant for Lily to run away. She had only wanted the girl to be removed legally. Now, faced with her brother's distress, she began to question her actions. "Gabriel," Vivian said hesitantly, approaching her distraught brother, I need to tell you something." But before she could confess, a commotion at the front door interrupted them. One of the servants burst in, breathless and wide-eyed. "Mr. Gabriel, we've found her. Lily's been spotted in the old abandoned factory at the edge of town." Without a moment's hesitation, Gabriel grabbed his car keys. "I'm going to get her," he declared, his voice filled with determination. "I'm coming with you," Vivian insisted, surprising both Gabriel and herself. Perhaps this was her chance to make things right. As they sped towards the factory, neither of them noticed the small electrical fire that had started in the kitchen of the mansion, sparked by a faulty wire and fueled by the chaos of the evening. Meanwhile, in the dilapidated factory, Lily huddled in a corner, cold, scared, and already regretting her decision to run away. The old building creaked and groaned around her, shadows dancing in the dim moonlight that filtered through broken windows. Suddenly she heard the sound of a car approaching. Peeking out, she saw Gabriel's car pull up, and her heart leapt with a mixture of joy and fear. She wanted nothing more than to run to him, to feel safe in his arms again. But the memory of Vivian's phone call held her back. As Gabriel and Vivian entered the factory, calling her name, Lily retreated further into the shadows. She could hear the desperation in Gabriel's voice, the genuine concern that made her question her decision to run. "Lily, please, where are you? It's okay, you're not in trouble. We just want you to come home." Gabriel's voice echoed through the empty building. Torn between her fear and her longing for the safety Gabriel represented, Lily remained hidden, tears silently streaming down her face. Unbeknownst to any of them, back at the mansion, the small kitchen fire had grown into a raging inferno. The old wooden structure of the house fed the flames, which spread with terrifying speed. By the time the fire was noticed and the alarm raised, much of the lower floor was already engulfed. At the factory, Gabriel and Vivian's search was interrupted by the shrill ring of a cell phone. Gabriel answered, his face paling as he listened to the frantic voice on the other end. "The mansion's on fire," he said to Vivian, his voice hollow with shock. "We need to go back, now." Vivian gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "But what about Lily?" Gabriel looked around the factory, anguish clear on his face. "We will have to come back for her. The staff are home, we need to be there." As they rushed to leave, neither of them noticed the small figure that slipped out of the shadows and into the back seat of the car, driven by a mixture of concern and a desperate need not to be left behind again. The drive back to the mansion was tense, filled with worried speculation about the extent of the fire and the safety of the staff. When they finally arrived, the scene that greeted them was one of chaos and destruction. The once grand mansion was now a blazing inferno, flames licking at the night sky. Fire trucks were already on the scene, firefighters battling the blaze while shell-shocked staff members huddled in groups on the lawn. Gabriel leapt from the car, rushing towards the chief firefighter to get an update. Vivian followed close behind, leaving the car door open in their haste. It was then that Lily made her presence known, climbing out of the car and staring in horror at the burning building she had briefly called home. The heat of the fire was intense, even from a distance, and the roar of the flames filled the air. As Gabriel spoke with the firefighter, his face grew increasingly pale. "What do you mean, someone's still inside?" he demanded, his voice rising in panic. Lily's keen ears caught the conversation, and her heart froze. Someone was still in there, in danger, because she had run away, because everyone had been distracted looking for her. Without thinking, driven by a combination of guilt and an instinctive need to help, Lily darted towards the burning mansion. She was small and quick, easily slipping past the distracted adults. "Lily." "No." Gabriel's shout of terror cut through the noise as he saw the small figure running towards the inferno. Lily was already at the door, ducking under a falling beam and into the smoke-filled interior. The heat was oppressive, the smoke thick and choking. She dropped to her hands and knees, crawling along the floor where the air was clearer. "Hello," she called out, her voice barely audible over the roar of the flames. "Is anyone here? Where are you?" A faint cough answered her, coming from the direction of the kitchen. Lily crawled towards the sound, her eyes stinging, her lungs burning with every breath. She found one of the kitchen staff, an elderly woman named Mrs. Potts, collapsed on the floor, overcome by smoke. With strength born of desperation, Lily grabbed the woman's arm and began to drag her towards the exit. Every inch was a struggle. The smoke was getting thicker, the heat more intense. Lily could hear shouts from outside, could almost feel Gabriel's terror. But she couldn't give up, couldn't let Mrs. Potts die because of her. Just as Lily thought she couldn't go on, that the smoke and heat would overcome her, she felt strong arms lift her and Mrs. Potts. Through the haze, she saw Gabriel's face streaked with soot and tears. "I've got you," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "I've got you both." With Lily in one arm and supporting Mrs. Potts with the other, Gabriel staggered out of the burning mansion. As soon as they cleared the door, they were swarmed by paramedics and firefighters. Lily found herself on a stretcher, an oxygen mask pressed to her face. Through the chaos, she sought out Gabriel, needing to see him, to know he was okay. Their eyes met, and in that moment a wordless understanding passed between them. As the paramedics worked on her, Lily felt a small hand slip into hers. She turned to see Vivian, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," Vivian whispered. "I'm so sorry. You truly are one of us." As consciousness began to fade, Lily allowed herself a small smile. She was home. She was family. And this time she knew it was for real. The days following the fire were a blur of hospital visits, insurance claims, and temporary accommodations. Gabriel had rented a luxurious suite in a nearby hotel, insisting that Lily stay with them despite Vivian's initial protests. The near tragedy had softened Vivian's heart, but she still harbored doubts about Lily's true identity. It was during one of these tense moments that Gabriel made a decision. "We're going to have a DNA test," he announced one morning over breakfast, his voice firm but gentle. "It's time we knew the truth, for all our sakes." Lily looked up from her cereal, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. What if it shows I'm not your daughter?" she asked, a voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel reached across the table, taking Lily's small hand in his. "Lily, listen to me. No matter what that test says, you are a part of this family now. You've proven your worth and your love for us. The test is just to confirm what I already feel in my heart." Vivian watched this exchange with a complex mix of emotions. Part of her still wanted to protect her brother from potential heartbreak, but she couldn't deny the bond that had formed between Gabriel and Lily. "I think it's a good idea," she said, surprising herself. "We all need to know." The process was quick, but the wait felt interminable. Lily spent her days alternating between hope and dread, while Gabriel threw himself into work, rebuilding their home and their lives. Vivian, for her part, found herself warming to Lily despite her best efforts to remain detached. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the results arrived. Gabriel gathered Lily and Vivian in the hotel suite's living room, the envelope clutched tightly in his hand. "Are we ready for this?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Lily nodded, unable to speak. Vivian reached out and squeezed her brother's shoulder in a rare show of support. With shaking hands, Gabriel opened the envelope and began to read. The room fell into a tense silence, broken only by the sound of Gabriel's sharp intake of breath. "Lily," he said, his voice choked with emotion, "you are my daughter. The test confirms it. You're my little girl." For a moment, no one moved. Then, with a cry that was half sob and half laugh, Lily launched herself into Gabriel's arms. He caught her, holding her tightly as tears streamed down both their faces. Vivian stood to the side, her own eyes misty. All her doubts, all her suspicions melted away in the face of this raw, pure emotion. This was real. This was family. As the initial shock and joy subsided, Gabriel gently pulled back, cupping Lily's face in his hands. "Lily, my dear daughter, there is so much I want to tell you, so much I need you to know." He took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving Lily's. "From the moment I saw you on that rainy street, something inside me connected with you. Now I know it was the call of blood, the unbreakable bond between father and daughter." Gabriel's voice cracked with emotion as he continued, "I'm sorry for all the years we lost, for not being there to see your first steps, hear your first words, dry your tears when you fell. My heart aches thinking of all the nights you spent alone, scared, not knowing you had a father who would have moved mountains to protect you." Lily's eyes filled with fresh tears, but she remained silent, hanging on to every word. "I don't want you to blame your mother for not telling me," Gabriel said softly. "She probably thought she was doing what was best for everyone. She always cared about me, and I know she did the same for you." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I can't erase my absence from the beginning of your life, but I want you to know that from now on, I'll be here, always, for every moment, every laugh, every tear. I'll teach you everything I know, learn from you everything I don't. We'll create new memories to make up for the ones we missed." Gabriel's eyes shone with pride as he continued, "You are the living proof of the love I shared with your mother, Olivia. She must have been an amazing mother, Lily, to have raised such a kind, brave, and strong girl. I see her in you." He took Lily's hands in his voice growing stronger. "I promise I'll do everything in my power to be the father you deserve. I'll love you unconditionally, support all your dreams, protect you from all dangers. But I'll also give you space to grow, to make mistakes and learn from them, to become the amazing person I know you'll be." Gabriel's voice softened again. "It won't always be easy. We'll face challenges ahead, difficult moments, but we'll face them together as a family. Because that's what we are now, Lily, the family. You and me, united not only by blood but by love, by the choice to be together." He pulled Lily into another tight embrace. "I want you to know that I'm incredibly proud of you, of your courage in facing so many adversities, your strength in never giving up, your kindness even when the world wasn't kind to you. You are a miracle, Lily, my miracle. You saved me, my daughter. I owe you my life." But as Gabriel's words washed over her, Lily felt a warmth she had never known before. It was the warmth of belonging, of being truly, completely loved. In that moment, wrapped in her father's arms, Lily knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she was finally irrevocably home. The weeks following the DNA test results were a whirlwind of change for Lily. The hotel suite, while luxurious, was quickly replaced by a newly purchased penthouse apartment that Gabriel insisted on calling their temporary home until the mansion could be rebuilt. For Lily, who had spent months on the streets, the opulence was overwhelming. Every day brought new experiences and challenges. Gabriel enrolled Lily in an elite private school, determined to give her every opportunity he could. But for a girl who had missed months of education while living on the streets, the transition was far from smooth. On her first day, Lily stood at the school gates, clutching her new backpack with trembling hands. When the other children arrived in expensive cars, their uniforms pristine, their confidence palpable, Lily felt like an imposter in her new clothes, the weight of her past heavy on her small shoulders. "You'll be fine," Gabriel reassured her, squeezing her hand. "Just be yourself. You're smart and kind, and that's what matters." But as Lily soon discovered, being herself wasn't always enough in this new world. The academic challenges were immense. She struggled to keep up with lessons, the gaps in her education glaringly obvious. Nights that should have been spent bonding with her newfound father were instead filled with tears of frustration over homework she couldn't understand. Social integration proved equally daunting. The other children, curious about the new girl, bombarded her with questions about her past and her sudden appearance in Gabriel's life. Lily, unsure of how much to reveal and still processing her own emotions, retreated into herself, earning a reputation for being standoffish and strange. At home, Lily grappled with the sudden abundance in her life. The fully stocked fridge, the soft bed, the closet full of new clothes, all served as constant reminders of how different her life had become. Sometimes, late at night, she would find herself sleeping on the floor, the plush carpet more familiar than the too soft mattress. Gabriel, for his part, tried his best to help Lily adjust. He hired tutors to help her catch up academically and sought the advice of child psychologists to address her emotional needs. But despite his best efforts, he often felt at a loss, unsure how to bridge the gap between their experiences. One particularly difficult evening, after a parent-teacher conference where Lily's struggles were laid bare, Gabriel found her sitting on the balcony of their penthouse, staring out at the city lights. "Lily," he said softly, sitting down beside her, "is everything okay?" Lily was quiet for a long moment before speaking. "I don't belong here," she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "I'm trying, Dad, I really am. But I don't know how to be this person everyone expects me to be." Gabriel felt his heart break at her words. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "Oh, sweetheart," he sighed. "You don't have to be anyone but yourself. I know this is all new and overwhelming, but you do belong here. You're my daughter, and this is your home." Lily leaned into him, finally letting her tears fall. "But what if I can't catch up? What if I'm always behind? The other kids, they look at me like I'm still that girl from the streets." Gabriel gently tilted Lily's chin up, meeting her eyes. "Listen to me, Lily. Your past, everything you've been through, it's part of who you are. And who you are is amazing. You're strong, you're resilient, and you have a kindness that can't be taught. Those other kids. They could learn a lot from you." His words, filled with love and conviction, began to chip away at Lily's doubts. But adapting to this new life would be an ongoing process, filled with ups and downs. As the days passed, Lily slowly began to find her footing. She formed a tentative friendship with a quiet girl named Emma, who seemed unfazed by Lily's background. With the help of her tutors and her own determination, her grades began to improve, though she still struggled in some subjects. At home, Gabriel made a conscious effort to create new traditions with Lily. They started having weekly movie nights, complete with homemade popcorn and silly commentary. On weekends, they would explore different parts of the city, with Lily often leading the way, showing Gabriel hidden corners she had discovered during her time on the streets. Vivian, too, played a role in Lily's adjustment. Having moved past her initial skepticism, she took on the role of doting aunt with gusto. She taught Lily about fashion and makeup, things Olivia hadn't had the chance to share with her daughter. Yet despite these positive changes, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that she was living two lives: the polished, privileged existence of Gabriel's daughter and the streetwise, scrappy girl she had been for so long. Reconciling these two parts of herself would be her greatest challenge yet. Just as Lily was beginning to settle into her new life, an unexpected development threatened to upend everything. It was a crisp autumn morning when the doorbell of the penthouse rang, echoing through the spacious rooms. Gabriel, engrossed in a business call, nodded to Lily to answer it. Lily opened the door to find a man she didn't recognize. He was tall and lean, with salt and pepper hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through her. For a moment they just stared at each other, an inexplicable tension filling the air. "Can I help you?" Lily asked, her voice small but steady. The man's face softened, a mix of emotions playing across his features. "Lily," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "is that really you?" Confused and slightly alarmed, Lily took a step back. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" Before the man could answer, Gabriel appeared behind Lily, his business call forgotten. "And can I help you, sir?" he asked, placing a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. The man's eyes darted between Lily and Gabriel, a flash of something, anger, jealousy crossing his face. "My name is Jason Parker," he said, his voice gaining strength. "And I'm Lily's father." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Lily felt as if the ground had disappeared from beneath her feet. She looked up at Gabriel, seeing the shock and disbelief mirrored in his eyes. Gabriel was the first to recover. "I think you'd better come in, Mr. Parker," he said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. "We have a lot to discuss." As they moved to the living room, Lily felt as if she were in a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. She sat close to Gabriel on the sofa, while Jason took a seat across from them. "I don't understand," Lily said, her voice trembling. "The DNA test, it showed that Gabriel is my father." Jason leaned forward, his eyes intense. "I don't know anything about a DNA test, but I do know that I was with your mother, Olivia, 9 years ago. We were in love, but circumstances tore us apart. I never knew she was pregnant when she left." Gabriel's arm tightened around Lily. "If that's true, why are you only showing up now? Lily has been through so much." Jason's face crumpled with what appeared to be genuine remorse. "I didn't know. Olivia, she never told me. It was only recently that I found out about Lily, and it took me some time to track her down." As the adults talked, Lily felt herself retreating inward. Her mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. She had just found stability with Gabriel, had just begun to believe in the possibility of a happy family. And now this stranger was threatening to take it all away. "I want a DNA test," Jason said firmly. "I have a right to know if Lily is my daughter." Gabriel nodded stiffly. "We'll arrange it, but I want you to understand something, Mr. Parker. Regardless of what any test says, Lily is my daughter. I've been caring for her, loving her. Doesn't change." As the days passed waiting for the new DNA test results, the atmosphere in the penthouse was tense. Lily withdrew into herself, the progress she had made in adjusting to her new life seemingly evaporating overnight. She found herself watching Gabriel and Jason closely, comparing features, mannerisms, searching for any clue to her true parentage. Jason, for his part, made efforts to connect with Lily. He brought old photos of himself and Olivia, sharing stories of their time together. Lily listened with a mixture of fascination and apprehension, torn between her curiosity about her mother's past and her loyalty to Gabriel. Gabriel struggled to maintain his composure, but Lily could see the fear in his eyes. He spent long hours on the phone with lawyers, discussing custody arrangements and parental rights. At night, Lily would sometimes hear him pacing in his study, his muffled voice alternating between anger and pleading as he talked to unseen advisors. The day the test results were due to arrive, the tension in the penthouse was palpable. Lily sat between Gabriel and Jason, feeling like a rope in a tug-of-war. When the doctor finally arrived with the envelope, Lily thought she might be sick from the stress. With shaking hands, the doctor opened the envelope and read the results. The room fell silent, the only sound Lily's own heartbeat thundering in her ears. The results showed, the doctor began, his voice carefully neutral, that there is a 99.9% probability that Mr. Parker is Lily's biological father. The words hit Lily like a physical blow. She turned to Gabriel, seeing the devastation in his eyes, the way his shoulders slumped in defeat. Then she looked at Jason, who was smiling, tears of joy in his eyes. "Lily," Jason said, reaching out to her, "my daughter." But Lily recoiled from his touch, suddenly angry. "No," she said, her voice shaking. "No, you're not my father. Gabriel is my father." Jason's face fell. "Lily, I know this is a shock, but nothing," Lily interrupted, surprising herself with her vehemence. "Where were you when I was living on the streets? Where were you when I was cold and hungry and scared? Gabriel found me. Gabriel took care of me. Gabriel loved me when I had no one." She turned to Gabriel, grabbing his hand. "You're my dad," she said fiercely. "I don't care what some test says. You're my dad and I'm not going anywhere." Gabriel pulled Lily into a tight embrace, his own tears falling freely now. "Oh, Lily," he murmured, "my brave, wonderful girl." Jason watched this exchange, a complex mix of emotions playing across his face. I understand," he said finally, "but I hope you can give me a chance, Lily. I want to be part of your life if you'll let me." Lily looked at Jason over Gabriel's shoulder, her emotions a turbulent mix of anger, curiosity, and a small, unwelcome flicker of hope. She didn't have an answer for him, not yet. For now, she just held tighter to Gabriel, the man who had proven to be her father in all the ways that truly mattered. As the adults began to discuss legal implications and custody arrangements, Lily closed her eyes, wishing desperately for the simplicity of her life just a few short weeks ago. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, filled with complex emotions and divided loyalties. But she also knew that no matter what happened, she had found her true home, not in any building or with any particular person, but in the love that had been so freely given to her. As the dust began to settle around the revelation of Lily's biological father, a new threat emerged from the shadows of her past. It started with a series of strange occurrences, hang-up calls to the penthouse, mysterious figures lurking outside Lily's school, and an unsettling feeling of being watched that Lily couldn't shake. At first, Gabriel dismissed these incidents as paranoia, a natural result of the stress they'd all been under. But as the days passed, the signs became harder to ignore. One afternoon, as Lily was walking home from school with Emma, her newfound friend, a sleek black car pulled up beside them. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a face that made Lily's blood run cold. Well, if it ain't little Lily," drawled a gravelly voice. "Looks like you've moved up in the world. Huh." Lily instinctively pushed Emma behind her, her eyes never leaving the man in the car. "Razor," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want?" Razor, a notorious figure from the streets Lily once called home, grinned menacingly. "Just checking in on an old friend. Heard you've got yourself a rich daddy now. Thought maybe you could help out your old pals." Before Lily could respond, a police siren wailed in the distance. Razor's grin faltered. "We'll be in touch, kid," he said, before the car sped away. Shaken, Lily hurried home with Emma, her mind racing. She had hoped that part of her life was behind her, but it seemed her past wasn't ready to let her go just yet. At evening, Lily sat Gabriel down, knowing she could no longer keep her street life a secret. With trembling hands and a quavering voice, she began to tell him everything about Razor, the gang he led, and the jobs they used to make street kids do. Gabriel listened, his face growing paler with each revelation. When Lily finished, he pulled her into a tight embrace. "Oh, Lily," he murmured, "I'm so sorry you had to go through all that, but you're safe now. I promise I won't let anyone hurt you." But Lily knew it wouldn't be that simple. Razor and his gang weren't the type to give up easily, especially when they smelled money. Over the next few weeks, the threats escalated. Razor's men became bolder, approaching Lily at school, leaving menacing notes at the penthouse. Gabriel hired additional security, but it did little to ease the constant fear that had settled over their lives. Jason, upon learning of the situation, insisted on being involved. Despite the lingering tension between them, Gabriel reluctantly agreed, recognizing that they needed all the help they could get. One night, as Lily lay in bed, unable to sleep, she heard muffled voices from the living room. Creeping to her door, she listened as Gabriel and Jason argued in hushed tones. "We need to go to the police," Jason insisted. "And tell them what?" Gabriel retorted. "That a street gang is threatening my daughter, who until recently was living on the streets herself. They'll start asking questions we can't answer." "Then what do you suggest? We can't keep living like this, Gabriel. Lily can't keep living like this." There was a long pause before Gabriel spoke again, his voice heavy with resignation. "I have connections. People who can make problems go away. I never wanted to use them, but for Lily's safety." Lily's heart raced. She had always known Gabriel was powerful, but this was the first time she truly understood the extent of that power. Before a decision could be made, a crash echoed through the penthouse. Lily's door flew open, revealing Gabriel and Jason, their faces etched with fear. "Lily, we need to go." "Now," Gabriel said, grabbing a pre-packed bag from her closet. They rushed to the private elevator, but as the doors opened, they found themselves face to face with Razor and two of his men. "Going somewhere," Razor sneered, brandishing a gun. What happened next was a blur of motion and sound. Jason lunged at Razor, while Gabriel shielded Lily with his body. There was a struggle, a gunshot that seemed to shake the entire building, and then silence. When Lily dared to look, she saw Razor and his men on the ground, subdued by building security that had responded to the gunshot. Jason was leaning against the wall, clutching his arm where a bullet had grazed him. In the aftermath, as police swarmed the penthouse and paramedics tended to Jason, Lily found herself sandwiched between Gabriel and Jason on the sofa. Despite their differences, both men had risked everything to protect her. "I'm so sorry," Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "This is all my fault." "No, sweetheart," Gabriel said firmly. "None of this is your fault. You're a child who's been dealt a terrible hand, but you're not responsible for the actions of those who should have protected you." Jason nodded in agreement. "Your father's right, Lily. You've shown incredible strength and courage through all of this. We're the ones who should be sorry for not protecting you better." As the night wore on and statements were given to the police, a plan began to form. It was clear that staying in the city was no longer safe. They needed a fresh start, somewhere Razor and his gang couldn't reach them. "I have a property," Gabriel said, "a ranch in Montana. It's remote, peaceful. We could go there just until things settled in." Lily looked between Gabriel and Jason, seeing the determination in both their eyes. She realized that despite their differences, these two men were united in their love for her and their desire to keep her safe. As dawn broke over the city, Lily, Gabriel, and Jason boarded a private jet, leaving behind the dangers of the past and heading towards an uncertain but hopeful future. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, Lily felt truly safe, surrounded by the love of not one, but two fathers. The Montana ranch provided a temporary respite from the dangers that had plagued them in the city, but it also brought new challenges. As Lily began to settle into the peaceful rural life, the legal battle over her custody intensified. Jason, emboldened by the DNA test results and his role in protecting Lily from Razor's gang, filed for full custody. His lawyers argued that as Lily's biological father, he had the primary right to raise her. They painted Gabriel as a well-meaning but ultimately unrelated party who had no legal claim to Lily. Gabriel, devastated by this turn of events, fought back with all the resources at his disposal. His legal team emphasized his role in rescuing Lily from the streets, the stable home he had provided, and the strong bond they had formed. They argued that uprooting Lily again would be detrimental to her well-being. Lily found herself caught in the middle of this legal tug-of-war. She was required to speak with child psychologists, court-appointed guardians, and even the judge herself. Each time she steadfastly maintained that she wanted to stay with Gabriel, but the court seemed intent on prioritizing biological ties. One particularly difficult day, after a grueling session with the court-appointed psychologist, Lily overheard a heated argument between Gabriel and Jason outside the ranch house. "She's my daughter, Gabriel," Jason's voice carried on the wind. "I missed out on 8 years of her life. I'm not missing any more." "And whose fault is that?" Gabriel retorted, his voice tight with anger. "Where were you when she was alone on the streets? I'm the one who's been there for her, who's given her a home, a family." "A family?" Jason scoffed. "You're not even related to her." "I'm her real father." "Being a father is about more than DNA," Gabriel shouted. "It's about love, sacrifice, being there when it matters most. Lily couldn't bear to listen anymore. She retreated to her room, burying her face in her pillow to muffle her sobs. She loved Gabriel, the man who had saved her, who had shown her what it meant to have a real father. But she couldn't deny the pull she felt towards Jason, the connection of shared blood and the possibility of knowing more about her mother. As the court date approached, tension in the ranch house reached a fever pitch. Gabriel grew distant, spending long hours on the phone with his lawyers. Jason became increasingly insistent, trying to spend every possible moment with Lily, as if making up for lost time. The night before they were due to return to the city for the final custody hearing, Lily couldn't sleep. She crept out of her room and found both Gabriel and Jason in the living room, each lost in their own thoughts. "I can't do this anymore," Lily said, her voice breaking the silence. Both men turned to her, startled. "I love you both," Lily continued, tears streaming down her face, "and I'm tearing you apart. Maybe it would be better if I just went back to the streets. Then neither of you would have to fight anymore." "No!" both Gabriel and Jason exclaimed simultaneously, rushing to Lily's side. Gabriel knelt before her, taking her small hands in his. "Lily, sweetheart, don't ever think that. You are the most important thing in my life. I'm fighting because I love you, because I can't imagine my life without you." Jason placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "He's right, Lily. We're not fighting because of you, we're fighting for you. Because you deserve the best, you deserve to be loved and cared for." As Lily looked between these two men, both willing to go to such lengths for her, she felt a surge of love and gratitude. But she also felt a deep sadness, knowing that no matter what the court decided, someone would be hurt. "So Lily said softly, "I wish we could all just be a family together." Her words hung in the air, a simple wish from a child that seemed impossible in the face of the legal battle that lay ahead. But as Gabriel and Jason exchanged a look over Lily's head, something shifted. A seed of an idea, crazy and improbable, began to take root. As they prepared to leave for the city the next morning, none of them could have predicted how Lily's innocent wish would ultimately reshape their future. The custody battle had taken its toll on everyone, but none more so than Gabriel. As they returned to the city for the final hearing, Lily noticed that her adoptive father seemed paler than usual, with dark circles under his eyes. She attributed it to stress and lack of sleep, but the truth was far more serious than anyone realized. On the morning of the hearing, as they prepared to leave for the courthouse, Gabriel collapsed in the kitchen. Lily's scream brought Jason running, and within minutes, they were racing to the hospital instead of the court. The next few hours were a blur of white corridors, hushed conversations, and terrifying medical terms. Finally, a doctor emerged from the emergency room to speak with them. "Mr. Hawthorne has suffered a minor heart attack," the doctor explained gently. "While we've stabilized him, we're concerned about the underlying cause. We've detected a heart condition that will require immediate attention and possibly surgery." Lily felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. She turned to Jason, her eyes wide with fear. "What's going to happen now?" she whispered. Jason, setting aside his own agenda for the moment, pulled Lily into a comforting embrace. "We'll get through this, Lily. Gabriel is strong. He'll fight this." The custody hearing was postponed indefinitely as Gabriel's health took center stage. Lily refused to leave the hospital, camping out in the waiting room and sneaking into Gabriel's room whenever the nurses would allow it. One evening, as Lily sat by Gabriel's bedside, holding his hand and watching the steady rise and fall of his chest, he stirred and opened his eyes. "Lily," he said, his voice weak but filled with love. "My brave girl." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Dad," she choked out, "I was so scared. Please don't leave me." Gabriel squeezed her hand as tightly as he could manage. "I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. It'll take more than this to keep me from you." Over the next few weeks, as Gabriel underwent tests and began treatment, Lily's world revolved around the hospital. She threw herself into caring for Gabriel, reading to him, helping him with physical therapy exercises, and simply being there. Jason, witnessing the depth of Lily's love for Gabriel, found himself re-evaluating his stance on the custody battle. He saw how Lily's presence seemed to give Gabriel strength, how her love was a crucial part of his recovery. One day, as Lily was dozing in a chair by Gabriel's bed, Jason pulled Gabriel aside for a serious conversation. "I've been thinking," Jason began hesitantly. "Seeing Lily these past few weeks, how much she loves you, how much you mean to her, I realize I've been selfish." Gabriel looked at Jason, surprise evident on his tired face. Jason continued, "I wanted Lily in my life so badly that I didn't stop to think about what was best for her. The truth is, you're her father in all the ways that truly matter. I want to drop the custody suit." So Gabriel was stunned. "Jason, are you sure? You have a legal right." "Legal rights don't always equate to what's right," Jason interrupted. "Lily needs you, and you need her. I see that now." As they talked, neither man noticed that Lily had woken up and was listening intently. Then her heart swelled with love for both of them, for Jason's selflessness and for Gabriel's unwavering love. "What if," Lily said, startling both men, "what if we could all be a family?" Gabriel and Jason exchanged glances, then looked at Lily with matching expressions of surprise and consideration. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Gabriel asked gently. Lily took a deep breath. "I love you, Dad. You're my father in every way that counts. But Jason, he's part of me too, and I think I'd like to know him better. Can't we find a way for all of us to be in each other's lives?" The room fell silent as the weight of Lily's words sank in. It was a childlike solution to a complex adult problem, but there was wisdom in its simplicity. Gabriel reached out and took Lily's hand. "If that's what you want, Lily, we'll find a way to make it work." Jason nodded in agreement. "We can try. For you, Lily." As Gabriel's recovery progressed, so did this new, unconventional family dynamic. Jason became a regular presence in their lives, not as a rival to Gabriel, but as an additional source of support and love for Lily. The day Gabriel was released from the hospital marked a new beginning for all of them. As they walked out into the sunshine, Lily held Gabriel's hand on one side and Jason's on the other. "You know," Gabriel said, looking at Lily with a mix of love and pride, "your mother would be so proud of you, Lily. And you've brought us all together in a way I never thought possible." Lily beamed, feeling for the first time since she'd left the streets that she truly belonged. She had not just one, but two fathers who loved her, and a future full of possibility. As they drove home, Lily looked out the window at the city passing by. The streets that had once been her home now seemed like a distant memory. She had faced abandonment, danger, and nearly lost the man she called Dad. But through it all, she had found something precious, a family built not just on blood, but on love, understanding, and the willingness to put her needs first. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but Lily knew that with her two fathers by her side, she could face anything. She was no longer the scared little girl crying in the rain. She was Lily Hawthorne Parker, loved, cherished, and finally truly home. The months following Gabriel's release from the hospital were a period of adjustment and healing for everyone. The mansion, now fully rebuilt, became a symbol of their new beginning. Its halls, once cold and imposing, now rang with laughter and the warmth of family. Gabriel, Jason, and Lily worked together to create a unique family dynamic that honored all their relationships. They established a co-parenting arrangement that allowed Lily to spend time with both fathers, ensuring she never felt torn between them again. Vivian, who had been a silent supporter during Gabriel's illness, fully embraced her role as Lily's aunt. She organized family dinners, planned outings, and became the glue that often held their unconventional family together. One sunny afternoon, as they all gathered in the mansion's garden for a barbecue, Lily looked around at her family with a heart full of joy. Gabriel was at the grill, playfully arguing with Jason about the best way to cook a steak. Vivian was setting the table, humming softly to herself. "Dad," Lily called out, her voice filled with curiosity, "do you think Mom would be happy to see us like this?" Gabriel paused, a soft smile forming on his lips. "I'm sure she would, dear. She must be looking out for us right now with that beautiful smile you inherited." Jason nodded in agreement. "Your mother always wanted what was best for everyone. So I believe the miracle of our union has to do with her. I think she watches over us wherever she is." Lily ran to hug both her fathers, burying her face between them. "I miss her, but I'm so happy to have both of you and Aunt Vivian now," she murmured. Vivian joined the embrace, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "And we're happy to have you, Lily. You've brought so much light into our lives." As they sat down to eat, Gabriel raised his glass in a toast. "To family," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just the one we're born into, but the one we choose and build together." "To family," everyone echoed, clinking their glasses. As the afternoon wore on, filled with laughter, shared stories, and the warmth of familial love, Lily felt a peace she had never known before. She looked up at the blue sky, thinking of her mother and the incredible journey that had led her here. That night, as Gabriel tucked Lily into bed, he couldn't help but smile at the sight of Elizabeth's brooch carefully placed on the bedside table, one of the few possessions that had survived their tumultuous journey. "Good night, my love," he said, kissing Lily's forehead. "So good night, Dad," she replied sleepily. "I love you." "I love you too," Gabriel said, his smile reaching his eyes. "More than you can imagine." As he closed Lily's bedroom door, Gabriel knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together as a family. They had weathered storms, faced dangers, and overcome seemingly insurmountable odds, but through it all, love had prevailed. Lily, once a lost and lonely child, was now surrounded by more love than she had ever dreamed possible, and in that love, she had found her true home. Family is not defined by blood alone, but by the love, sacrifice, and commitment we choose to give each other. In life's darkest moments, it's not our circumstances that define us, but how we rise above them. Every child deserves love, every lost soul deserves a home, and every broken heart deserves a chance to heal. Sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as our biggest challenges. Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your story. The family you're born into may shape your beginning, but the family you choose shapes your forever. In the end, love is the most powerful force in the universe. It can bridge any gap, heal any wound, and create miracles out of the most unlikely situations. No matter how alone you may feel, there is always hope. Your true family might be just around the corner, waiting with open arms. All it takes is the courage to open your heart and the faith to believe in the power of love. In this journey called life, we are all Lily in some way, searching for belonging, for understanding, for a to call home. And like Lily, we all have the power to transform our pain into strength, our loneliness into love, and our broken pieces into a beautiful mosaic of family. So never give up. Your happily ever after may not look like anyone else's, but it's out there, and it's worth every tear, every struggle, and every moment of doubt. Because in the end, love always wins. We hope this story touched your heart as much as it touched ours. If Lily's journey resonated with you, or if you found a piece of yourself in her story, we'd love to hear from you. Simply leave a 1 in the comments to let us know you enjoyed it. Your thoughts and perspectives are invaluable to us. If there were aspects of the story you didn't quite agree with or would like to discuss further, please share your insights in the comments. Your unique viewpoint could spark a meaningful conversation. Lastly, if you'd like to support our team and ensure you don't miss out on more heartwarming stories like Lily's, consider subscribing to our channel. Your support enables us to continue crafting these narratives that celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. Remember, every comment, every subscription is a source of encouragement for our creative team. Together, let's build a community that appreciates the power of storytelling and the beauty of unconventional families. Thank you for being part of our journey.